Baby found a German Shepherd in a cage in front of a house. What Baby did next left everyone in tears. What this innocent child did next changed lives forever. Like, share, and comment where you're listening from. Rain pounded against the windows like tiny fists, demanding to be let in. 5-year-old Max pressed his small nose against the cold glass, his breath creating fog circles that expanded and shrank with each exhale. Outside, the world had turned gray and blurry, the kind of afternoon that made everything seem like it was underwater. "Max, honey, stay away from the windows," called his mother Lily from the kitchen. The rich smell of tomato sauce and herbs filled their small house, fighting against the damp chill that had settled in the corners. "Dinner will be ready soon, and Dad will be home." Max didn't move. There was something hypnotic about the way the rain made rivers down the glass, how it transformed their quiet street into something mysterious and new. The vacant house across the street, empty for almost 6 months now, looked especially sad in the downpour, its windows dark and accusing. "Mom, why does nobody live there?" Max asked, his finger tracing a raindrop's path. Lily wiped her hands on a dish towel as she glanced out. "The Hendersons moved away, remember? They needed a bigger place after the twins were born." She didn't mention the rumors about financial troubles, or how quickly they had disappeared one night. Some things weren't for little ears. "Will someone new come?" Max's eyes remained fixed on the empty house. "Someday," Lily answered, returning to her cooking. "Max, can you please set the table? Dad should be here in 20 minutes." Max reluctantly pulled himself away from his window post, climbing onto the step stool to reach the plates in the cabinet. His father Ryan worked long hours at the local clinic. He was a nurse, which Max thought was the best job in the world because he got to help people and sometimes bring home colorful bandages with cartoon characters. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, counting down minutes until their family would be complete again. Max carefully placed 3 plates on the table, followed by forks and napkins. He was just about to call out to his mom that he had finished when he heard it. A whimper, so faint that at first he thought it might have been the wind playing tricks, but then it came again, higher pitched, desperate, like something small and scared. Max froze, a glass halfway to the table. "Mom?" "Yes, sweetie," Lily answered, distracted as she stirred the sauce. "I heard something." Max's voice dropped into a whisper, as if whatever made the sound might hear him. "It's just the storm, Max. The wind makes all sorts of noises." But Max knew this wasn't the wind. He'd heard something alive, something hurting. The whimper came again, clearer this time. It was definitely coming from outside, maybe from across the street. Without thinking, Max dropped the napkins he was holding and ran to the front door. "Max!" Lily called out, but her voice seemed distant now, unimportant compared to the urgent cry that pulled him forward. Before his mother could stop him, Max had twisted the doorknob and pushed into the rain. The cold drops hit his face and soaked through his t-shirt instantly, but he barely noticed. His bare feet splashed through puddles as he darted across the empty street, his eyes fixed on the abandoned Henderson house. The whimpering grew louder as he approached, but it wasn't coming from inside the house. It was from the side yard, partially hidden by overgrown bushes that had once been neatly trimmed. Max pushed through the wet foliage, ignoring the scratches on his arms. What he saw next made his small heart feel like it stopped beating. There, pressed against the side of the house under the minimal shelter of a damaged gutter, was a large metal cage. Inside, a German Shepherd lay curled into herself, her wet fur matted and dirty. The dog's eyes, amber and filled with a pain Max couldn't understand, looked up at him with such hopelessness that tears immediately mixed with raindrops on the boy's face. "It's okay," Max whispered, moving closer, despite the frightening size of the animal. "I'm not bad." The dog didn't growl or bark. She simply watched him, her body trembling from cold or fear or both. As Max got closer, he could see she was tethered to the cage by a heavy chain that barely gave her room to turn around. There was no water bowl, no food, nothing but metal bars and mud underneath her. A rusty padlock secured the cage door. "Who did this to you?" Max asked, his small fingers gripping the cold metal bars. The dog inched forward, just enough to sniff at his hand. Her nose was dry and hot, even in the chilling rain. Behind him, Max heard his mother's panicked voice. "Max, where are you? Max!" "Over here! Mom, come quick!" he shouted back, never taking his eyes off the dog. "Someone hurt her," he added more softly, just for the dog's ears. Lily appeared moments later, her hair plastered to her head from the rain, eyes wild with fear, and then relief at finding her son. "Max, you can't just run out like—" Her words died when she saw what had drawn her son outside. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hand going to her mouth. The dog looked up at them both, and something in her eyes made Max start crying harder. "She's crying in her heart, not just her voice," he said, with the strange wisdom that sometimes came from children. "We have to help her." Lily pulled out her phone, shielding it from the rain with her body. "We will, baby. We're going to call for help right now." But Max shook his head firmly. "No, we have to help her. She picked us." There was such certainty in his voice that Lily paused, her finger hovering over the emergency numbers. The dog whimpered again and shifted slightly, revealing ribs that protruded sharply from her side, and several patches where fur had been worn away, exposing raw skin. "Someone put her here on purpose," Max said, his voice surprisingly steady for a child his age. "Look." He pointed to a small pile of cigarette butts near the cage, signs that someone had stood guard over this animal recently. Lily felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. The dog had obviously been deliberately placed here and abandoned, but why this house? Why their street? "We need to get you inside first," Lily said firmly, trying to pull Max away. "You're soaking wet, and we need to think about what to do." "No!" Max pulled his arm free with surprising strength. "If we leave, she might not be here when we come back." Lightning cracked overhead, followed by a boom of thunder that made both of them jump. The dog pressed herself further into the corner of her cage. "She's scared of the thunder," Max whispered. "Please, Mom, please don't leave her." Lily hesitated, looking from her son's determined face to the trembling animal. This wasn't like finding a stray cat or helping an injured bird. This was someone's dog, a large, potentially dangerous animal that had clearly been mistreated. But the alternative, dragging her son away while leaving an animal to suffer, seemed impossible in the face of Max's certainty. "Wait here," she finally said. "I'm going to get a blanket from the car. Don't touch the cage, understand? The dog might be scared, and we don't know how she'll react." Max nodded solemnly, but the moment his mother turned away, he moved closer to the cage. "My name is Max," he told the dog softly. "That's my mom. She's getting something to keep you warm." The dog's eyes never left him. Her tail, tucked tightly against her body, moved slightly, just the tip wagging in a hesitant greeting. "You can understand me," Max said with absolute conviction. "Don't worry. I won't let anyone hurt you anymore." Lily returned with a beach blanket they kept in the trunk for spontaneous park outings. She draped it carefully over the top of the cage, creating a barrier against the worst of the rain. "This is temporary," she told Max firmly. "We need to call animal control or the police." "They'll take her away," Max said, his eyes filling with fresh tears. "She needs us." As if to confirm his words, the dog inched forward again until her nose pressed against the cage where Max's fingers still gripped the bars. She licked his fingertips once, a gesture so gentle it made Lily's resolve waver. "Max, we don't know this dog. She could be aggressive or sick." "Her name is Luna," Max interrupted, with the same certainty he had shown earlier. "And she's not mean. She's just really, really sad." Lily opened her mouth to argue, but was interrupted by headlights cutting through the rain as a car pulled into their driveway across the street. "That's Dad," Max said excitedly. "He'll know what to do." Before Lily could stop him, Max was running back across the street, waving his arms wildly as Ryan emerged from his car, confusion clear on his face as he spotted his soaking wet son racing toward him. "Max, what on earth?" Ryan began, but Max grabbed his hand, pulling urgently. Dad, you have to come quick. We found Luna and she's hurt, and someone locked her in a cage and left her in the rain, and Mom says we have to call someone, but they'll take her away, and she picked us, Dad. She really did." Ryan looked to his wife for explanation. Lily crossed the street more slowly, rain still pouring down on all of them. "There's a dog," she explained, raising her voice over the storm. "Someone abandoned it at the Henderson place. It's locked in a cage and it looks like it's been abused." Ryan's face darkened. As a nurse, he had seen his share of mistreatment, of people and animals alike. "Show me," he said simply, letting his son pull him across the street. When they reached the cage, Ryan dropped to one knee despite the mud, assessing the situation with his medical training. The dog, Luna, as Max had named her, watched him warily but didn't growl or show signs of aggression. "She's severely malnourished," Ryan said quietly, careful to keep his tone neutral, despite the anger building inside him, "and possibly dehydrated. Those patches on her skin could be mange or just injuries from being kept in this small cage. Can you help her? Max asked, his eyes huge in his small face. Ryan looked at the padlock, then reached into his pocket for his keys. I have a multi-tool on my keychain. Let me see if I can get this lock open. Ryan, Lily said hesitantly, shouldn't we call someone? Officially, I mean. Ryan worked at the lock, his jaw tight. We will. But I'm not leaving an animal in these conditions for hours while we wait for someone to respond. Not in this weather. Max beamed at his father as if he had just announced he could fly. See, Mom? Dad gets it. Luna needs us now. The lock was old and partially rusted. After a few tense minutes of manipulation, it gave way with a reluctant click. Ryan carefully opened the cage door, moving slowly to avoid frightening the dog. Hey there, he said softly. It's okay. We're going to help you. Luna didn't move at first, her eyes darting between the three humans. Then, with painful slowness, she inched forward, her belly low to the ground in a submissive crawl. When she reached the cage opening, she stopped, as if unable to believe escape was possible. It's okay, Max whispered again. You can come out. Ryan held out his hand, palm up, letting the dog sniff him. The chain, he noted grimly, seeing how it was attached to a crude collar embedded so deeply in the dog's neck that fur had grown around it. We'll need to deal with that properly, but not here. Luna finally took one hesitant step out of the cage, then another. She stood on shaky legs, her tail still tucked between them, but her ears perked slightly forward with what might have been hope. What do we do with her now? Lily asked, glancing nervously at the empty houses around them. Someone put her here deliberately. Ryan's expression was grim. First, we get her somewhere safe. Then we call for help. He looked at his son, who stood transfixed by the dog's first moments of freedom. Max, this is important. Did you see anyone around here when you found Luna? Max shook his head solemnly. No, but someone was here before. I could feel it. The eerie certainty in his voice made both parents exchange a worried glance. Ryan carefully removed his jacket and draped it over the dog's back. Let's get her to our garage for now. I can examine her better there, and we'll figure out next steps. She can stay with us, right? Max asked, already moving as if to lead Luna home. She picked us, Dad. She was waiting for us to find her. Ryan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he carefully lifted the weakened dog, grimacing at how light she felt in his arms despite her size. Luna didn't struggle. She simply went limp, as if surrendering to whatever fate awaited her now. One step at a time, buddy, Ryan finally replied. First, let's get everyone warm and dry. As they crossed back to their house, none of them noticed the dark sedan that turned slowly onto their street, headlights off despite the gloom. None of them saw it idle for a moment before continuing past their house at a crawl, and none of them noticed when it parked 2 blocks away, engines still running. Inside, a man watched the rain streak down his windshield, phone pressed to his ear. They took the bait, he said simply. Then, with a cold smile that never reached his eyes, now we wait. The garage was warmer than outside, but still carried a chill that made Lily shiver as Ryan gently placed Luna on an old comforter they'd spread across the concrete floor. The dog hadn't made a sound during the short journey across the street, not a whimper, not a growl, just silent resignation that somehow felt worse than any noise could have been. Max, honey, you need to get changed into dry clothes, Lily said, trying to guide her son toward the door that connected to their kitchen. I want to stay with Luna, Max insisted, his eyes never leaving the trembling dog. She's scared in new places. Ryan knelt beside the German Shepherd, his hands hovering just above her fur, not quite touching. Max, I need to check Luna for injuries. Mom will help you get dry, and then you can come right back. I promise I won't let anything happen to her. Max hesitated, looking between his father and the dog with obvious conflict in his young face. Finally, Luna made a small movement, just a slight shift that brought her closer to Ryan's outstretched hand. It was as if she was telling the boy it was okay to leave. Promise you'll call if she needs me? Max asked, allowing his mother to guide him toward the door. Cross my heart, Ryan replied solemnly. Once Max and Lily had gone inside, Ryan carefully began his examination, speaking softly to Luna the entire time. Let's see what we're dealing with, girl. I know you're scared, but I'm going to help you. Luna's eyes followed his every movement, but she remained eerily still, as if conserving what little energy she had left. Up close, her condition was even worse than Ryan had first thought. Beyond the obvious malnourishment and the patches of missing fur, there were older scars beneath, evidence of long-term abuse rather than simple neglect. The crude collar was embedded deeply enough into her neck that removing it would require proper medical tools and possibly sedation. There were friction wounds around her paws from the chain, and one of her ears had a notch missing from the tip. "Who did this to you?" Ryan murmured, anger making his hands shake slightly as he reached for the bowl of water he'd prepared. He held it near Luna's mouth, but she made no move to drink, watching him with those haunted amber eyes. "It's just water," he encouraged. "You must be thirsty." Still, Luna didn't move toward the bowl. Instead, her gaze shifted to the doorway where Max had disappeared, as if waiting for the boy's permission. The door opened, and Max hurried back in, now dressed in dry pajamas with a towel still draped over his wet hair. "Is she okay?" he asked immediately. "She needs care," Ryan answered honestly, "and she won't drink for me." Max frowned, then approached slowly, kneeling beside his father. "Luna, you need to drink water to get strong," he said simply, dipping his fingers into the bowl and letting the drops fall in front of her nose. To Ryan's astonishment, Luna inched forward and tentatively lapped at the water, her eyes still fixed on Max's face. "She's listening to you," Ryan said, unable to keep the wonder from his voice. "She talks in pictures, not words," Max explained, as if this were perfectly normal. "Right now she's showing me how thirsty she is, but she was scared the water might be bad." Ryan exchanged a glance with Lily, who had appeared in the doorway with an armful of old towels. Neither spoke of the oddness of Max's connection with the dog. Some things defied explanation. "I called Dr. Sanchez," Lily said quietly. "She can come by in an hour to look at the dog, but she said we need to report this to animal control." "Did you tell her the condition Luna's in?" Ryan asked, keeping his voice neutral for Max's benefit. Lily nodded, her eyes troubled. "She said it's all the more reason to get officials involved. This level of abuse—" "She's asking for help in pictures, not words," Max said suddenly, his hand hovering just above Luna's head, not quite touching. "She shows me things." "What kinds of things, sweetie?" Lily asked, setting down the towels and kneeling beside her son. Max's face scrunched in concentration. A man, a very angry man, and other dogs that are scared too. He looked up at his parents with tears in his eyes. She got away, but the others didn't. Ryan felt a chill that had nothing to do with his still damp clothes. "Max, honey, dogs can't actually talk to people, even in pictures. You're being very kind and imaginative, but—" "She is talking to me," Max insisted, a stubborn set to his jaw that they rarely saw. "She picked me because I can see her pictures. She's been waiting for someone who could." Luna whined softly, the first real sound she'd made since they brought her home, and pressed her nose against Max's knee. "See," Max said triumphantly, "she agrees." Lily brushed damp hair from her son's forehead, feeling the familiar maternal mix of love and worry. Max had always been sensitive, sometimes knowing things he shouldn't be able to know, like the time he'd insisted they not drive to his grandmother's house because the bridge is broken, only to learn later that flooding had indeed made the crossing unsafe. Or how he always seemed to know when Ryan had had a particularly difficult day at the hospital, greeting him with extra hugs without being told. But this was different. This was a traumatized animal that somehow seemed to have formed an instantaneous bond with their 5-year-old. It was beautiful and unsettling all at once. "Let's get her dry and warm first," Lily said finally. "Then we can decide what to do next." Ryan nodded, grateful for his wife's practical approach. "I'm worried about that collar. I don't want to try removing it ourselves and cause more damage." "Dr. Sanchez will know what to do," Lily assured him, carefully beginning to towel Luna's wet fur. The dog flinched at first contact, but didn't growl or snap, instead watching Max for reassurance. "It's okay," Max told her. "Mom's just getting the rain off you. It feels nice to be dry." Luna relaxed visibly at his words, allowing Lily to continue drying her. As they worked, the garage grew quieter. The only sounds the soft murmurs of encouragement from Max and the occasional drip of water from their still wet clothes. "She's pregnant," Max announced suddenly, his hand hovering over Luna's belly. Ryan froze mid-motion. "What did you say?" "She has babies inside her," Max said simply. "That's why she escaped. She didn't want her babies born in a bad place." Ryan gently placed his hands on Luna's abdomen, feeling with trained fingers. His expression shifted from skepticism to shock. "He's right," he whispered to Lily. "I can feel the fetuses. I'd guess she's about 7 weeks along. Lily sat back on her heels, a new worry creasing her brow. That changes things. We definitely need Dr. Sanchez now. We can't tell anyone else, Max said urgently, his small hands cupping Luna's face with such tenderness it made Lily's heart ache. The bad man wants her babies. That's why he kept her. What bad man, Max? Ryan asked carefully. The one who put her in the cage, Max replied, as if it were obvious. He marked her so everyone would know she belongs to him. Marked her? Lily echoed. Max nodded solemnly, pointing to a patch on Luna's shoulder where the fur was particularly sparse. There's a mark under her fur. Luna says all his dogs have it. Ryan leaned closer, gently parting the matted fur. Sure enough, there was a small symbol scarred into the skin, a crude diamond shape with what might have been initials inside, though it was too distorted by fur growth to make out clearly. A brand, Ryan said grimly, sitting back. Someone used a hot iron to mark her as property. Lily pressed her hand to her mouth, eyes filling with tears. Who would do such a thing? Someone who sees animals as objects, not living beings, Ryan replied, his voice hard with controlled anger. Someone who probably runs dogfighting rings or illegal breeding operations. Dogfighting? Max asked, his young face clouding with confusion. It's something very bad people do, Lily explained carefully. They make dogs fight each other and bet money on which one will win. That's why she's scared of other dogs, Max whispered, stroking Luna's head gently. She was supposed to fight, but she wouldn't. Again, the uncanny accuracy of his insight made both parents exchange worried glances. There was no way Max could know these details, not unless he had somehow learned about the darker side of animal abuse, which they had carefully shielded him from. I think we should call the police, Ryan said finally. Not just animal control. This is clearly part of something bigger. Lily nodded, but her eyes were troubled. If what Max says is right, if someone is looking for her, doesn't that put us at risk too? Before Ryan could answer, the doorbell rang, making all of them jump. Luna pressed herself against Max, a low growl rumbling in her chest, the first sign of aggression she'd shown. That's probably Dr. Sanchez, Lily said, though she made no move toward the door. She said an hour, but she might have finished her other house call early. I'll get it, Ryan said, standing up. You stay with Max and Luna. As Ryan disappeared into the house, Max wrapped his arms protectively around Luna's neck. It's okay, he whispered. Dad won't let anyone take you. Lily watched her son comfort the trembling dog, torn between maternal pride at his compassion and fear at how quickly their peaceful life had been upended. Just hours ago, they'd been a normal family preparing for a quiet dinner. Now they were harboring an abused, pregnant dog that might be connected to criminal activities. And yet, watching the trust in Luna's eyes as she looked at Max, Lily couldn't bring herself to regret their decision to help. Ryan's voice drifted in from the front of the house, followed by a woman's lighter tones. Moments later, the garage door opened to admit Ryan and a petite woman with gray-streaked black hair pulled into a practical ponytail. This is Dr. Sanchez, Ryan introduced. She's agreed to examine Luna off the record first, before we decide next steps. Dr. Sanchez, Elena to her friends, though she never used her first name professionally, set down her medical bag and approached slowly, evaluating the scene with experienced eyes. So, this is our patient, she said softly, keeping her distance. And you must be Max. Your dad tells me you have a special connection with this dog. Max nodded solemnly. Her name is Luna. She picked us to help her. Dr. Sanchez smiled gently. Animals are very good judges of character. May I come closer to check on her? Max looked at Luna, then back at the veterinarian. She's nervous about strangers. She says they usually hurt. I understand, Dr. Sanchez replied, sinking to her knees several feet away. I promise I only want to help her feel better. Would it help if you stayed right next to her while I check her? Max considered this, then nodded. I'll tell her you're a dog doctor. Dr. Sanchez waited patiently as Max whispered to Luna, the dog's ears twitching as if truly listening to his words. After a moment, Luna relaxed slightly, though her eyes remained fixed on the newcomer. She says you can come closer now, Max announced, but no metal things at first. They remind her of the cage. Dr. Sanchez raised her eyebrows slightly, but nodded. I'll be very careful. Thank you for translating, Max. Over the next 20 minutes, the veterinarian conducted a gentle but thorough examination, careful to explain each step to both Max and Luna before proceeding. Ryan and Lily watched in silent amazement as their son seemed to facilitate the process, sometimes whispering reassurances to Luna, other times telling Dr. Sanchez when to pause or move more slowly. "Well," Dr. Sanchez said finally, sitting back on her heels, "you were right, Ryan. She's approximately 7 weeks pregnant. I can feel at least 4 puppies, possibly 5. Otherwise, her main issues are malnourishment, dehydration, and that embedded collar, which needs to come off as soon as possible." "Can you remove it?" Lily asked. Dr. Sanchez nodded. "I brought sedatives and the necessary tools, anticipating something like this based on your description. The good news is that despite her condition, Luna seems remarkably sound mentally. No signs of aggression, even in a strange environment with strange people examining her. She's very smart," Max said proudly, "and very brave." "I can see that," Dr. Sanchez agreed. "Now, about what happens next." She looked at Ryan and Lily with serious eyes. "Officially, I should report this to animal control. They would take her to a shelter, treat her, and try to find her original owner." "No!" Max cried out, his arms tightening around Luna. "The bad man would get her back." "Max, honey," Lily began gently, but Dr. Sanchez held up a hand. "I understand your concern, Max," she said, "and I share it. That brand on her shoulder tells me she's been used for something illegal. If she went to a shelter, there's a risk that whoever did this to her could indeed claim her." "So, what do we do?" Ryan asked. Dr. Sanchez looked down at her medical bag, then back at the family. "Officially, I never saw this dog. You called me about your cat's upset stomach, I gave you some diet recommendations, and I left. What you do with a stray dog you may or may not have found is not my concern." Lily's eyes widened. "You do that?" "I've been a vet in this town for 30 years, Dr. Sanchez replied simply. "I've seen things that would keep you up at night. When I have a chance to do the right thing instead of the technically correct thing, I take it." She looked at Max and Luna with a soft expression. "Besides, I've never seen a bond form so quickly between a child and an animal. There's something special happening here." "Thank you," Ryan said quietly. "Don't thank me yet," Dr. Sanchez warned. "Hiding Luna might protect her from whoever abused her, but it also means you can't get help if complications arise with her pregnancy. And pregnant dogs who have been abused and malnourished have higher risks." "We'll manage," Lily said, surprising herself with her certainty. Just hours ago, she'd been hesitant to even bring the dog home. Now she was committing to helping Luna deliver puppies in secret. "Very well." Dr. Sanchez opened her bag and began removing supplies. "Let's start by removing that collar and treating her immediate injuries. Then I'll leave you with medications and instructions for her care." "I'll help," Max volunteered instantly. "Me too," Ryan added, moving closer. "Excellent. Lily, could you get some warm water and clean towels? This will be a team effort." As they worked together to prepare Luna for the collar removal, Max whispered something in the dog's ear that only she could hear. Luna's tail, which had remained tucked tightly against her body since they found her, moved slightly, just the tip wagging in response to whatever secret the boy had shared. Outside, night had fully descended, the storm still raging. None of them noticed the same dark sedan passing slowly by their house once more, its headlights off, wipers sweeping rhythmically across the windshield. Inside, a man raised a pair of binoculars, focusing on the house with calculating precision. His phone buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced at it briefly. "Any sign of the bitch?" He typed a quick response. "They took her inside. Appears to be a family, parents and a kid." The reply came immediately. "Watch them. Don't approach yet. If they call authorities, let me know immediately." "Understood." He settled deeper into his seat, binoculars trained on the house where lights glowed warmly against the stormy darkness. Inside that cozy home, a frightened dog was finding unexpected safety. Outside, patient evil waited, certain that it would eventually reclaim what it considered its property. The man smiled thinly. Let them play hero for now. It would make the eventual reclaiming all the more satisfying when the time came. That night, after Dr. Sanchez had gone, leaving behind antibiotics, special food, and strict instructions, the storm finally began to subside. The thunder that had made Luna tremble grew more distant, the rain softening to a gentle patter against the roof. Max refused to leave Luna alone in the garage. She'll be scared, he insisted when Lily tried to guide him to bed. It's her first night in a new place. Ryan and Lily exchanged looks over their son's head, the silent communication of parents deciding how flexible to be with bedtime rules. What if we make Luna a bed in your room? Ryan suggested, a compromise that made Max's face light up. Yes, she can sleep right next to me. But, Lily added quickly, she stays on her own bed on the floor, not in your bed. She wasn't ready to have a formerly stray dog with who knows what parasites sharing her son's pillow, no matter how much Max had bonded with the animal. Deal, Max agreed instantly, already hurrying toward his bedroom. I'll make space for her bed. While Ryan went to prepare Luna's new sleeping area, an old comforter folded into a makeshift dog bed, Lily knelt beside the German Shepherd, who was looking markedly better after Dr. Sanchez's care. The cruel collar had been removed, revealing raw skin underneath that had been treated with antiseptic and a soothing salve. Luna had been given a gentle sponge bath rather than a full immersion bath, which Dr. Sanchez had advised against in her weakened state. You're going to sleep in Max's room tonight, Lily explained softly, not feeling at all foolish for speaking directly to the dog. After witnessing Luna's apparent understanding all evening, it seemed only natural. Can you walk, or should I call Ryan to carry you? Luna's amber eyes studied Lily for a moment. Then she carefully rose to her feet. She was still unsteady but determined, her legs trembling slightly with the effort. Good girl, Lily encouraged, moving slowly toward the door. This way. Luna followed, her movements cautious but not fearful. When they reached the stairs leading to the second floor, she hesitated, looking up at the steep climb. Need some help? Ryan asked, appearing from the kitchen. Without waiting for an answer, not that the dog could give one, he gently scooped Luna into his arms. She was still frighteningly light for her size, but seemed more relaxed in human arms than she had been earlier. Max is all set up, Ryan told Lily as they climbed the stairs. He's built what he calls a fort of safety around where Luna will sleep. Lily smiled despite her exhaustion. Their son's boundless compassion never ceased to amaze her. He's always had such a big heart. Gets it from his mom, Ryan replied, giving her a quick kiss on the cheek as they reached the top of the stairs. They found Max in his room, arranging the last of his stuffed animals in a semicircle around the dog bed Ryan had prepared. See, he explained as they entered, they'll watch over Luna while she sleeps, especially Brave Bear and Sheriff Woody. They're the best protectors. That's very thoughtful, Lily said, her throat unexpectedly tight with emotion. Ryan gently set Luna down on the makeshift bed. She turned around twice before settling, her eyes constantly tracking Max as he fussed with arranging the stuffed animals to his satisfaction. There, Max declared finally. Now nothing bad can get you. Luna's tail thumped once against the blanket, a small but significant sign of trust. Time for you to get in bed too, Ryan reminded, pulling back Max's rocket ship-patterned comforter. Max climbed in reluctantly, his eyes still on Luna. Can I leave my nightlight on for her, in case she gets scared of the dark? Of course, Lily agreed, tucking the blanket around her son. Do you want one of us to stay until you fall asleep? Max shook his head. Luna will protect me, and I'll protect Luna. Ryan ruffled his son's hair. Call if you need anything, okay? We'll leave the door open a crack. After goodnight kisses, Ryan and Lily retreated to the hallway, pulling the door mostly closed behind them. Should we really leave them alone? Lily whispered once they were out of earshot. We barely know this dog. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders. That dog hasn't taken her eyes off Max since we found her. I think she'd throw herself in front of a car before letting anything happen to him. It's weird, isn't it? How quickly they bonded, and the way Max seems to know things about her. Kids have incredible intuition, Ryan said, guiding her toward their bedroom. And animals can sense kindness. Maybe it's as simple as that. But they both knew it wasn't simple at all. There was something almost supernatural about the connection between their son and the rescued dog, something neither of them could explain, but both could clearly see. Do you think whoever had her before will come looking? Lily asked as they prepared for bed. The question that had been nagging at her all evening finally spoken aloud. Ryan paused in the middle of changing into his pajamas. I don't know. But if Dr. Sanchez is right about that brand being connected to something illegal, then we need to be careful. Should we call the police? Anonymously? And tell them what? That we found an abused dog with a strange brand? Without Luna as evidence, they'd have nothing to investigate. Lily sighed, sinking onto the edge of their bed. So, we just wait? Hope that whoever did this doesn't track her here? Ryan sat beside her, taking her hand. Tomorrow I'll ask around at the hospital, discreetly. Sometimes people come in with injuries connected to dogfighting or other illegal activities. Maybe I can get some information that way. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was something. Lily nodded, squeezing his hand before they both climbed into bed, more mentally and emotionally exhausted than physically tired. Despite their worries, sleep came quickly for both of them. Max, however, remained wide awake long after his parents had gone to bed. He lay on his side, watching Luna in the soft glow of his dinosaur nightlight. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I promise." Luna's eyes, which had been half closed in exhaustion, opened fully at the sound of his voice. She lifted her head slightly, ears perked forward. "Do you want to come up here?" Max patted the space beside him on the bed, knowing his mother would disapprove but unable to resist offering the comfort. Luna considered for a moment, then slowly, carefully rose and approached the bed. Instead of jumping up, she simply rested her head on the edge of the mattress, close to Max's hand. "That's okay too," Max said, gently stroking her ears. "You can stay on your special bed if you want." They stayed like that for a while, the boy petting the dog's head, the dog leaning into his touch. Outside, the last of the storm clouds were moving on, occasional moonlight breaking through to cast silver patterns across the bedroom floor. Max was just beginning to drift off when Luna suddenly raised her head, ears pricked forward, body tense. A low growl rumbled in her throat, so quiet it was more felt than heard. "What's wrong?" Max whispered, instantly alert. Luna's attention was fixed on the window. Max followed her gaze but saw nothing except the dark glass reflecting the room's interior. "Is someone out there?" he asked, a small thread of fear winding through him. Luna didn't move, her focus unwavering. Max slipped out of bed and padded to the window, pressing his face close to the glass to see past the reflections. At first, he saw nothing, just the empty street, trees swaying slightly in the post-storm breeze, a few puddles reflecting moonlight. Then, a movement, a shadow separating from other shadows across the street, near where they had found Luna. A figure, standing perfectly still, face turned upward toward the house, toward Max's window. Max gasped and stumbled back, fear replacing curiosity in an instant. Luna was beside him immediately, her body pressing protectively against his legs, that same quiet growl vibrating through her. "Mom! Dad!" Max called out, his voice higher and tighter than normal. Footsteps hurried down the hall, and his bedroom door swung open to reveal both parents, Ryan slightly ahead with a baseball bat in hand that Max hadn't even known they owned. "What's wrong?" Ryan demanded, eyes scanning the room for threats. "There's someone outside," Max said, pointing to the window. "He was looking at our house." Ryan approached the window cautiously, peering out into the night. Lily went to Max, pulling him away from the glass and into her arms. "I don't see anyone," Ryan said after a moment, though his grip on the bat didn't loosen. "He was there," Max insisted, "by the tree across the street. Luna saw him too." As if to confirm this, Luna remained tense, her attention fixed on the window, even though she had moved to stay close to Max. "I'll go check," Ryan decided, already moving toward the door. "Ryan, no," Lily protested. "If someone really is out there—" "I'll just look from the porch," he assured her, "and I'll bring my phone to call 911 if necessary." Before she could argue further, he was gone, his footsteps quick but measured on the stairs. Lily hugged Max tighter. "Are you sure you saw someone, sweetie? It wasn't just shadows from the trees." "He was watching our house," Max repeated, certain despite his fear. "Luna knew he was there before I did." Lily looked at the German Shepherd, who had not relaxed her vigilant posture. There was something unnerving about the dog's focused attention, as if she recognized a specific threat rather than simply responding to a strange noise. "The bad man is looking for her," Max whispered, burying his face against his mother's shoulder. "Just like I told you." Downstairs, they heard the front door open and close as Ryan went outside. Lily held her breath, straining to hear any sounds of confrontation or alarm. Instead, there was only silence for several long minutes before the door opened and closed again, followed by Ryan's footsteps on the stairs. He appeared in the doorway, his expression troubled. "There's no one there now," he reported, "but—" He hesitated, glancing at Max before continuing. "There are cigarette butts under the oak tree across the street, fresh ones, different brand from the ones we found near Luna's cage." "So, someone was watching us?" Lily said, her arms tightening protectively around Max. Ryan nodded grimly, Looks that way. I'm calling the police. No, Max cried, pulling away from his mother. If the police come, they'll take Luna away. Max, honey, if someone dangerous is watching our house. He'll leave if we keep Luna inside, Max insisted. He just wants to know where she is. If the police take her, the bad man will find her at the shelter. Ryan and Lily looked at each other over their son's head, torn between protecting their family and respecting Max's seemingly preternatural understanding of the situation. What if we call my brother? Ryan suggested finally. Jake could come stay with us for a few days. Extra security without involving authorities. Jake was a former Marine who now worked as a personal trainer. Having him around would definitely make them all feel safer. Lily nodded slowly. That could work, and it would give us time to figure out our next steps. I'll call him in the morning, Ryan decided. For tonight, I think we should all stay together. Which was how they ended up having an impromptu family sleepover in the master bedroom. Max and Luna on a pallet of blankets on the floor, Ryan and Lily taking turns staying awake to watch over them. Each time one of them glanced out the window, they half expected to see that shadowy figure again, but the night remained still and empty. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through lingering clouds. Luna was the first to wake, rising quietly from her place beside Max and going to the bedroom door, her need obvious. I'll take her out, Ryan whispered to Lily, who had been on the most recent watch shift. Downstairs, Ryan attached a makeshift leash to Luna's neck, just a soft rope, nothing that would aggravate her healing wounds, and led her cautiously into the backyard. He stayed close, eyes constantly scanning the perimeter of their property for any sign of unwelcome observers. Luna relieved herself quickly, then seemed determined to investigate every corner of the yard, nose working overtime as she sniffed along the fence line. Not too long, Ryan urged gently. Let's get you back inside where it's safe. But Luna was fixated on something near the back gate. She pawed at the ground there, whining softly. Curious, Ryan approached, looking to see what had caught her attention. There, half hidden in the grass, was a small object, a leather dog collar, much nicer than the cruel one that had been embedded in Luna's neck. Attached to it was a metal tag, reflecting the morning sunlight. Ryan picked it up carefully, turning it over in his hand. The tag was engraved with a name, Shadow, and below it, a phone number. This wasn't Luna's collar, not with the wrong name and the pristine condition. This was a deliberate message. Someone had been in their yard, leaving this as a calling card or a warning. Let's go, girl, Ryan said, suddenly anxious to get back inside the house. Luna came willingly, seeming equally eager to return to Max's side. In the kitchen, Lily was already up and making coffee, Max still asleep upstairs. Ryan showed her the collar without a word. Where did you find this? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. By the back gate. It wasn't there yesterday. Someone was in our yard while we were sleeping? The coffee maker finished brewing, but Lily made no move to pour a cup, her attention fixed on the collar in Ryan's hand. I think they're sending a message, Ryan said grimly, that they know we have her, and they want her back. Lily sank into a kitchen chair, the reality of their situation hitting her anew. This is more serious than we thought, isn't it? These aren't just people who abandoned a dog. They're actively looking for her. Ryan nodded, setting the collar on the table. I'm going to call Jake now, not wait until later. And then I'm going to try calling this number, see who answers. Is that safe? I'll use the hospital's phone, not ours. Say I found a dog with this tag. See what they say. Lily looked unconvinced but didn't argue. I should get Max up for school, she said after a moment. Do you think that's a good idea? Maybe he should stay home today, just until we figure this out. The thought had occurred to Lily as well, but she was reluctant to disrupt Max's routine over what might be nothing more than intimidation tactics. Let's see what Jake says when you talk to him. If he thinks Max is in any danger... Agreed, Ryan said, already pulling out his phone to call his brother. Luna, who had been sitting quietly by Ryan's side, suddenly turned toward the kitchen doorway, her posture alert but not alarmed. Moments later, they heard the padding of small feet on the stairs, and Max appeared, hair tousled from sleep. Luna was worried about me, he announced by way of greeting. She woke me up to tell me she was down here with you. She did, huh? Ryan said, trying to keep his tone light despite the collar still sitting ominously on the table. He quickly covered it with a napkin before Max could notice. Max nodded, dropping to his knees to hug Luna. She likes it here. She doesn't want to leave. And she doesn't have to, Lily assured him, moving to start breakfast preparations. She's staying right here with us. Max smiled, satisfied with this answer, and began telling Luna about all the things they would do together that day, apparently assuming he would not be going to school. Ryan stepped into the living room to make his call, speaking in low tones to his brother. Lily could only hear fragments. Situation at the house. Just to be safe. As soon as you can. But the urgency in his voice was clear. When he returned to the kitchen, his expression was grim but determined. Jake will be here in an hour. He's bringing a friend from his security company, too. What did you tell him? Lily asked, careful to keep her voice neutral for Max's sake. Just that we found an abused dog and think the former owner might be watching the house, Ryan replied, the simplified version for little ears. He didn't ask for details. That's Jake for you. That was indeed Jake's way. Act first, ask questions later, especially when family was involved. It was a trait that had sometimes caused friction between the brothers growing up, but was deeply reassuring in situations like this. Max, honey, why don't you help Luna eat her breakfast? Lily suggested, setting down a bowl of the special food Dr. Sanchez had provided. She needs to take her medicine too. While Max was occupied with carefully measuring Luna's medication into the food, Ryan showed Lily his phone screen. He had pulled up information about the number on the collar tag. It's registered to someone named Victor Reeves, he whispered. I'll call from work, but I did a quick search first. He owns an import-export business in the city. Import-export? That sounds vague. Intentionally so, probably, Ryan agreed. Jake says the name rings a bell, but not in a good way. Some rumors about illegal activities, nothing proven. The pieces were coming together, none of them reassuring. Luna's abuse, the brand, the mysterious watcher, and now a collar connected to a businessman with a questionable reputation. Whatever they had stumbled into by rescuing Luna, it went far beyond simple animal cruelty. What have we gotten ourselves into? Lily murmured, watching Max tenderly encouraging Luna to eat. Ryan followed her gaze, his expression softening. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. That dog chose our son for a reason, and I'm not about to let either of them down. Across town, in an elegantly appointed office overlooking the city skyline, Victor Reeves studied the photographs his man had taken of the family, the father leaving for work, the mother and child playing with the dog in the backyard, all of them blissfully unaware they were being watched. So, this is who found my property, he mused, his voice cultured and controlled, despite the rage simmering beneath. A nurse, a housewife, and a child. The kid seems especially attached to the dog, his associate noted, barely leaves its side. Children form foolish attachments, Reeves replied dismissively. It will be a valuable lesson for him when the dog disappears. He set the photos down, tapping one manicured finger against the polished surface of his desk. Have you confirmed she's still carrying? The nurse called a vet. Based on their preparations afterward, they're definitely aware of the pregnancy. Excellent. Reeves stood, moving to the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased his success to the world. Those puppies represent a significant investment. Their bloodline is exceptional. When do you want to retrieve them? Reeves considered, watching the city below him with the detached interest of someone who viewed the world and everything in it as potential property. Let her whelp first, he decided finally. The puppies are too fragile to transport before birth. We'll take them all immediately after. And the family? A cold smile ghosted across Reeves's perfectly maintained features. Let them enjoy their borrowed pet while they can. When the time comes, make sure there are no complications. The implication hung in the air, but his associate merely nodded. In their line of work, complications often meant witnesses, and witnesses were simply obstacles to be removed. For now, Reeves continued, turning back to his desk, maintain surveillance. I want to know everyone who visits that house, every routine, every vulnerability. When we move, it will be clean and quick. In the quiet neighborhood across town, Max laughed as Luna tentatively licked his fingers clean of peanut butter from his breakfast toast. For now, they were safe in their bubble of newfound companionship. But the clock was ticking, counting down to a confrontation none of them were prepared for. Jake arrived exactly when he promised, his truck pulling into the driveway with military precision. He wasn't alone. A stocky man with a buzz cut and watchful eyes accompanied him, introduced simply as Cooper, an old friend from my unit. Max had been kept home from school, with Lily calling in to report a family emergency. The boy didn't mind, Being with Luna was all he cared about. They had spent the morning in the backyard under Lily's careful supervision, Max showing Luna every corner of his world while she followed him with the devotion of a guardian angel. When Jake and Cooper arrived, Luna retreated behind Max, her posture wary but not aggressive. Max immediately dropped to his knees beside her. "It's okay," he whispered. "That's Dad's brother. He's here to help." Jake, unlike many adults meeting a rescue dog, didn't immediately try to approach Luna. Instead, he crouched down to Max's level, keeping a respectful distance. "So, this is the lady of the hour," he said with an easy smile. "She's beautiful." Max beamed with pride. "Her name is Luna. She picked us to save her." "Smart dog," Jake replied, giving his nephew a wink. "She knew a hero when she saw one." Lily watched the interaction from the kitchen doorway, grateful for Jake's natural ability to validate Max's feelings without talking down to him. It was one of the many reasons Max adored his uncle. Jake had never once treated him as just a kid. Cooper remained near the front door, his attention focused outside rather than on the family reunion. His posture wasn't tense exactly, but there was a readiness to it that spoke of professional vigilance. "Ryan filled me in on the basics," Jake said once they'd all moved to the living room. Luna had settled at Max's feet, her head resting on his shoes as if to ensure he couldn't leave without her knowledge. "But I'd like to hear the whole story." Lily and Max took turns explaining how they'd found Luna, the mysterious watcher, and the collar left by their back gate. Jake listened without interruption, occasionally exchanging glances with Cooper that communicated volumes between the two men. "Did Dad tell you about Luna's babies?" Max asked when they had finished. Jake's eyebrows rose slightly. "Puppies, huh? When are they due?" "Dr. Sanchez thinks about 2 weeks," Lily said. "She's already showing quite a bit." "And this Victor Reeves," Jake said, leaning forward. "Ryan mentioned him when he called. The name's familiar." Cooper spoke for the first time since arriving. "Import-export business? Officially deals in luxury goods. Unofficially," he trailed off with a meaningful look at Jake. "Unofficially, there have been rumors," Jake finished, careful with his words in front of Max. "Nothing proven, but where there's smoke—" "He's a bad man," Max stated with flat certainty. "He hurts dogs." Jake didn't contradict his nephew or dismiss his assessment as childish imagination. Instead, he nodded gravely. "I believe you, buddy, and we're not going to let him hurt Luna." Max relaxed visibly at being taken seriously, something Lily noted with a pang. Had they been too quick to attribute his insights to imagination rather than intuition? "So, what's the plan?" Lily asked. "Ryan said you'd stay a few days?" Jake nodded. "Cooper and I will take shifts. One of us will always be here. We've brought some equipment to help secure the house." He glanced at Max. "Hey, champ, want to help your uncle bring in some cool gear from the truck?" Max looked at Luna uncertainly. "She can come too," Jake added. "Probably good for her to get comfortable with me and Cooper if we're going to be hanging around." This was acceptable to Max, who got up with Luna following close behind. When they had gone outside with Jake, Cooper moved to sit across from Lily. "Jake didn't want to say too much in front of the boy," he said quietly, "but you should know what you're dealing with. Victor Reeves is dangerous, not street thug dangerous. Connected dangerous." Lily's stomach clenched. Connected how? Money, influence, people who owe him favors, including some in law enforcement. Cooper's voice remained even, factual rather than alarmist. "That's why going to the police might not be your best option right now." "So, we're just supposed to, what, hide forever?" Cooper shook his head. "No, ma'am, but we need to be strategic. Document everything. Build a case that's too solid to be brushed aside by a well-placed phone call." Before Lily could respond, the front door opened as Jake and Max returned, arms full of duffel bags. Luna trotted between them, seemingly more relaxed in Jake's presence now. "Surveillance equipment," Jake explained, setting down his load. "Cameras, motion sensors, the works. Had them in storage from a job Cooper and I did last year." "You're going to catch the bad man on camera?" Max asked, eyes wide. "That's the idea, kiddo," Jake replied. "And if he knows he's being watched, he might just decide to stay away entirely." Cooper began unpacking the equipment, explaining the setup to Lily, while Jake took Max and Luna on a security tour of the house, pointing out the best places to install the cameras. "You're really good with him," Lily said to Jake when they reconvened in the living room. "He trusts you completely." Jake's expression softened. "He's a special kid, always has been. He glanced at Luna, who remained attached to Max's side like a furry shadow. And that's a special dog. The way they connect, it's something else. You believe him then? About Luna talking to him in pictures? Jake considered this, his usually jovial face turning serious. I've seen things, Lily, in the service and after. Things that don't have easy explanations. Sometimes, you just have to trust what's in front of you, even if you can't explain it. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity as Jake and Cooper installed security equipment around the perimeter of the house. Ryan came home early from work, having arranged coverage for his shifts for the next few days. He brought news that chilled them all. I called that number, he said once Max was occupied in another room, pretended I'd found a dog with the tag. The man who answered, I assume it was Reeves, was very interested until I described a black Labrador instead of a German Shepherd. Then he suddenly remembered his dog wasn't missing and hung up. He was testing to see if you had Luna, Jake concluded. And now he knows for sure, Lily said, hugging herself against a sudden chill. It was going to come to a confrontation eventually, Cooper pointed out. Better to know it's coming than to be taken by surprise. As if on cue, Max appeared in the doorway, Luna at his side. Someone's coming, he announced with the same certainty he had shown when talking about Luna's puppies. The adults exchanged alarmed glances. The cameras haven't picked up anything, Cooper said, checking the tablet that displayed all the security feeds. They're not close yet, Max explained, but Luna can feel them coming. Jake didn't waste time questioning this. Where, buddy? Which direction? Max looked down at Luna, as if consulting her, then pointed toward the front of the house. From the road, a car. Cooper moved swiftly to the front window, careful to stay hidden behind the curtain as he scanned the street. Nothing yet, he reported, but that doesn't mean... He stopped abruptly as a black luxury SUV with tinted windows turned onto their street, moving slowly. Vehicle approaching, he said, his voice shifting to a clipped, professional tone. Taking its time, doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Lily instinctively moved toward Max, pulling him away from the window. Should we hide Luna? Too late for that, Jake said grimly. If they're here to check, they already know. Best to present a united front. He turned to Max. Remember how we practiced? Just like we talked about. Max nodded solemnly, standing straighter. They had spent part of the afternoon role-playing different scenarios, preparing Max for potential confrontations while keeping it light enough not to frighten him. The SUV slowed to a crawl as it approached their house. Through the gap in the curtains, they could see a driver and a passenger, both men in dark suits. Classic intimidation move, Cooper muttered. Slow drive-by to let us know they're watching. But instead of continuing past, the SUV pulled to a stop directly in front of their house. The passenger door opened and a man stepped out, tall, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Ryan's monthly salary. His silver hair was styled perfectly, his posture commanding. Even from a distance, everything about him exuded wealth and authority. Victor Reeves, Jake whispered, recognition clear in his voice. I've seen him at charity events in the city.
What do we do? Lily asked, fighting to keep her voice steady, as the man began walking up their front path with the confident stride of someone who expected doors to open for him.
We talk to him, Ryan decided, all of us together. Let him see we're not intimidated. And that Luna has a family now, Max added firmly. The doorbell rang, an ordinary sound that somehow seemed ominous in the charged atmosphere. Luna growled low in her throat, pressing against Max's legs. It's okay, Max whispered to her. We won't let him take you. Ryan moved to answer the door, Lily and Max close behind him. Jake positioned himself slightly to the side, Cooper hanging back but visible, a clear message that the family wasn't alone. When Ryan opened the door, Victor Reeves smiled, a practiced, charming expression that never reached his cold eyes. Good afternoon, he said, his voice cultured and pleasant. I apologize for dropping by unannounced. My name is Victor Reeves. He extended a business card which Ryan took automatically. I believe you may have found something that belongs to me. I'm not sure what you mean, Ryan replied evenly. Reeves's smile remained fixed, but his eyes hardened. A German Shepherd. She wandered away from one of my properties about a week ago. I've been very concerned. At the sound of his voice, Luna's growl deepened, though she remained half hidden behind Max. We found an abandoned dog, Ryan acknowledged carefully. She was locked in a cage, starving and abused. A misunderstanding, I assure you, Reeves replied smoothly. One of my caretakers clearly failed in his duties. I'll be addressing that personally. The implied threat hung in the air. But I'm here now to collect her and bring her home where she belongs. She doesn't belong to you, Max said suddenly, stepping forward despite Lily's attempt to keep him back. She ran away because you hurt her. Reeves's facade slipped for just a moment, surprise and annoyance flashing across his features before the pleasant mask returned. You must be the young man who found her. That was very kind of you. He crouched down, bringing himself to Max's eye level. But she's very valuable to me. She's going to have puppies soon, did you know that? I know everything about her, Max replied, his young voice steady. I know you put her in fights. I know you branded her so everyone would know she's yours. I know you don't care about her at all. Reeves blinked, clearly taken aback by the child's directness. Behind Max, Jake shifted his position slightly, a subtle movement that placed him within easier reach of his nephew. Children have such vivid imaginations, Reeves said, straightening, but the fact remains that dog is legally my property. I have her papers, registration, proof of purchase. He reached into his jacket, producing a folded document. And I'm prepared to offer a generous reward for her return. Ryan didn't take the offered papers. She was abandoned on private property, abused and neglected. Any ownership claims you had were forfeit the moment you treated her that way. Reeves's smile finally disappeared completely. I'd hate to involve the authorities in such a simple matter. So would we, Jake interjected, stepping forward, especially since the authorities might be interested in that brand you marked her with. Not standard AKC procedure, is it? Recognition flickered in Reeves' eyes as he took in Jake's confident stance. I don't believe we've met. Jake Wilson, Cooper Security Solutions. Jake nodded toward where Cooper stood, watching the interaction with calculated intensity. We specialize in protecting people from threats, all kinds of threats. It was a deliberate message. We know who you are, and we're not defenseless. Reeves absorbed this, reassessing the situation with visible calculation. I see this as more complicated than I anticipated. He tucked the papers back into his jacket. Perhaps we can discuss this further when emotions aren't running quite so high. The dog, Shadow is her name by the way, is still my property. I'll be back with more formal documentation. Her name is Luna, Max corrected, his small hand resting protectively on the dog's head. She picked that name herself. Again, that flash of annoyance crossed Reeves's face before he controlled it. Children do get attached, don't they? But sometimes we have to learn that we can't keep things that don't belong to us. His gaze returned to Ryan and Lily. I'll give you 24 hours to reconsider. After that, I'll be pursuing this through official channels. We look forward to it, Ryan replied, his arm going around Max's shoulders. Good afternoon, Mr. Reeves. It was a dismissal, and everyone recognized it as such. Reeves nodded curtly, turned, and walked back to his waiting SUV with the same confident stride. Only the slight tension in his shoulders betrayed his anger. As the SUV pulled away, Lily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. That was terrifying, she admitted. And I don't think we've seen the last of him. Definitely not, Cooper agreed. But he wasn't expecting resistance, especially not professionals. He nodded toward Jake. The security company name drop was good. Makes him think twice about coming back with muscle. He'll be back with papers, Ryan predicted. Probably forged, but convincing enough to pressure us. Then we need our own documentation, Jake decided. Cooper, call our contact at Animal Welfare. We need to get Luna's condition and that brand officially documented before Reeves comes back with his proof of ownership. What does he mean, coming back with official channels? Lily asked, guiding everyone back to the living room. Luna had relaxed slightly now that Reeves was gone, but still stayed pressed against Max as if afraid he might disappear. Best case, he comes back with police and falsified ownership papers, Jake explained. Worst case, well, let's focus on preventing the best case first. He's not getting Luna, Max declared with absolute certainty. She's ours now. The adults exchanged glances, no one wanting to tell the boy that determination alone might not be enough against someone with Reeves's resources. We're going to do everything we can, Ryan promised, ruffling Max's hair. Right now, our job is to take care of Luna and make sure she and the puppies stay healthy. This was something Max could focus on, and his expression brightened. She needs her medicine soon, and extra food because of the babies. Why don't you get that ready? Lily suggested, grateful for the chance to give Max a task that would take him out of earshot for a few minutes. Once Max had gone to the kitchen with Luna following close behind, the adult spoke more frankly. "How dangerous is this guy, really?" Ryan asked Jake. Jake's expression was grim. "The rumors I've heard, dogfighting is just the surface. There's talk of connections to organized crime, money laundering through his import business. Nothing proven, but enough smoke that I wouldn't turn my back on him. And he knows where we live," Lily added, the reality of their situation sinking in deeper. "Which is why Cooper and I aren't leaving," Jake assured her, "and why we're going to document everything. The more public this becomes, the less room Reeves has to maneuver." Cooper, who had stepped away to make a phone call, returned with news. "My contact at Animal Welfare can come tomorrow morning. She'll bring a vet to examine Luna and document everything officially. She can also file paperwork to establish your temporary custody while Reeves's claim is investigated." "That's something at least," Ryan said. "What about tonight?" "I'll take first watch," Jake offered. "Cooper can relieve me at midnight. We've got the perimeter secured with the cameras. No one's getting close without us knowing." The rest of the day passed in a strange combination of normalcy and tension. They ate dinner together, played board games with Max to keep his spirits up, and tried to maintain a sense of routine despite the security equipment and the two men constantly checking windows and cameras. As night fell, a storm gathered on the horizon, dark clouds building and distant thunder rumbling, an eerie echo of the night they'd found Luna. The wind picked up, rattling windows and sending fallen leaves skittering across the yard. Max, who had been helping Lily with the dishes, suddenly went still, his hands dripping soapy water onto the kitchen floor. "Luna's babies are coming," he announced. Lily nearly dropped the plate she was drying. "What? Now? I thought Dr. Sanchez said 2 weeks." "Luna says they're coming early," Max insisted, already hurrying toward the living room, where Luna had been resting on her makeshift bed. "Because of the bad man and the storm." Ryan, who had been reviewing security procedures with Jake and Cooper, looked up in alarm as Max and Lily entered. "What's wrong?" "Max says Luna's going into labor," Lily explained, her tone caught between disbelief and concern. Luna was indeed acting differently, pacing in circles, occasionally pawing at her bed, her breathing more rapid than usual. "Could be false labor," Cooper suggested. "Dogs sometimes show signs days before the actual birth." But Jake, who had grown up on a farm, shook his head. "No, the kid's right. See how she's licking her flanks? That's a sign it's starting, and her temperature has probably dropped. You can tell by how she's seeking the cool floor rather than her bed." "Should we call Dr. Sanchez?" Lily asked, already reaching for her phone. "In this storm?" Ryan gestured toward the window, where rain had begun lashing against the glass. "The roads will be flooding soon. It would take her ages to get here." "Then we help Luna ourselves," Max stated with complete confidence, kneeling beside the dog. "She knows what to do. She just needs us to keep her safe." As if to confirm his words, the power chose that moment to flicker, the lights dimming before steadying again. Luna whined, pressing herself against Max's side. "That decides it," Jake said, moving into action. "Cooper, check the backup generator in case we lose power completely. Ryan, let's get some old blankets and towels. Lily, warm water and any clean scissors you have. Max, you stay with Luna and keep her calm." Everyone moved to their assigned tasks with surprising efficiency, as if they'd somehow been preparing for this moment without realizing it. Outside, the storm intensified, wind howling around the eaves of the house, and rain drumming against the roof in sheets. Ryan and Jake quickly created a whelping area in the corner of the living room, away from drafts but still accessible. They laid down layers of old blankets and towels, creating a nest-like space that Luna immediately approved of, circling it several times before settling down with a deep sigh. "Good girl," Max murmured, sitting cross-legged beside her. "You're doing great." Cooper returned from checking the generator. "It's ready if we need it. All security systems have battery backups too." "Any movement outside?" Jake asked. Cooper shook his head. "All clear. No one's crazy enough to be out in this weather." Then, seeing Max's worried expression, he added, "But we're still watching, just in case." Lily returned with a basin of warm water, clean towels, and a first aid kit. "I found some oral syringes too, in case the puppies need help feeding." The power flickered again, longer this time before returning. Luna whined, a sound of discomfort rather than fear. "It's starting," Max announced, his hand resting gently on Luna's side. "I can feel them moving." The adults exchanged glances, silently agreeing to follow Max's lead. There was something almost preternatural about the boy's connection with Luna, a bond that transcended normal human-animal relationships. "What do we do, buddy?" Ryan asked his son, acknowledging his expertise in this moment. "We just stay with her," Max replied, wisdom beyond his years in his young voice. "She doesn't need our help yet, just our love." Outside, thunder crashed directly overhead, and the house plunged into darkness as the power finally gave up its fight against the storm. In the sudden silence of electric devices powering down, Luna's panting seemed unnaturally loud. "Generator should kick in," Cooper began, but was interrupted by a new sound, Luna's first real contraction, accompanied by a low, keening whine. "It's okay, girl," Max soothed, his small hand steady on her heaving side. "Your babies are coming. We're right here with you." In the darkness, illuminated only by the flashlights Jake and Cooper had immediately produced, Luna's eyes reflected golden and trusting. Despite her pain, her gaze remained fixed on Max's face, drawing strength from his unwavering confidence. The first puppy was born just as the generator hummed to life, the lights flickering back on to reveal a tiny, wet bundle emerging into Max's waiting hands. "It's a boy," he announced with certainty, carefully helping Luna clean the membrane from the squirming puppy. "She says his name is Storm." None of the adults questioned this announcement. In the surreal atmosphere of the storm-racked night, with a dog giving birth in their living room while potential danger lurked outside, a 5-year-old naming puppies based on communication only he could perceive seemed entirely reasonable. As Luna continued her labor, bringing 4 more puppies into the world over the next 3 hours, the family worked together in a harmonious rhythm that transcended their usual roles. Ryan's medical knowledge, Jake's farm experience, Lily's nurturing instincts, Cooper's calm vigilance, and above all, Max's mysterious connection with Luna, all merged into a seamless support system for the new mother and her growing family. The last puppy, the smallest of the litter, gave them a scare, emerging without movement or sound. Luna whined in distress, nosing at the tiny form. "She needs help," Max said urgently. Ryan immediately took the puppy, wiping its face clean and gently rubbing its chest with a towel. "Come on, little one," he murmured. "Your mom's waiting for you." After what seemed like an eternity but was probably only seconds, the puppy gave a tiny gasp, then a feeble squeak. Luna's tail thumped weakly against the blankets in relief. "She says thank you," Max translated, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "She says this one is special. Her name is Hope." As if in response to being named, the tiny puppy squirmed her weight into Luna's side, joining her siblings in their first meal. Outside, the storm's fury had begun to subside, the thunder moving into the distance and the rain softening to a gentle patter. 5 healthy puppies, Lily marveled, her exhaustion evident but overcome by wonder. "I can't believe we just did that." "Luna did all the hard work," Ryan said, placing a gentle hand on the dog's head. "We just helped a little." Luna, surrounded by her nursing puppies, looked up at the family gathered around her chosen family, with such clear gratitude that even the most skeptical observer would have recognized it. "They're beautiful," Max whispered, carefully stroking each tiny head, "and they're safe now." No one had the heart to remind him that Reeves was still a threat, that their problems were far from over. For this moment, at least, they would savor the miracle they had just witnessed. New life emerging against the odds, hope in the midst of darkness. Jake and Cooper exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between them. No matter what came next, these puppies and their mother would be protected. The stakes had just gotten higher, the need for vigilance more critical. As dawn broke, the storm clouds finally parted, allowing pale sunlight to filter through the windows. Luna and her puppies slept peacefully, exhausted from their night's work. Max, despite his insistence that he wasn't tired, had finally succumbed to sleep as well, curled up on the floor beside Luna's makeshift bed. Ryan covered his son with a blanket, then joined Lily, Jake, and Cooper in the kitchen, where they could speak without disturbing the new family. "What now?" Lily asked, her voice hushed. "Now we document everything," Jake replied. "Those puppies are evidence of why Reeves wants Luna back so badly. If they're from some champion-fighting bloodline—" "They're just babies," Lily protested. "To us, yes," Cooper agreed grimly. "To Reeves, they're merchandise, valuable merchandise." Ryan's jaw tightened. He's not getting them. Not Luna, not the puppies, not after what he did to her. Agreed, Jake said, but we need to be smart about this. Reeves will be back, probably today, and he'll have proof of ownership. We need to be ready. And if official channels fail, Lily asked the question no one wanted to voice. If his influence is as extensive as you think. Jake and Cooper exchanged another look before Jake answered. Then we have contingency plans. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Hope, like the name Max had given to the smallest, most vulnerable puppy. The one that had nearly not made it, but had fought her way into the world, despite the odds. Maybe, Ryan thought, as he gazed at his sleeping son, that was exactly what they needed most right now. Not just plans and security systems, but hope that goodness could triumph over cruelty, that a family's love could be stronger than one man's greed. Outside, the rising sun painted the rain-washed world in shades of gold and promise. For now, at least, all was peaceful. But beneath that tranquility, both sides were preparing for the battle that was surely coming. The day after the puppy's birth passed in a blur of activity. The animal welfare officer, a no-nonsense woman named Marlene, arrived with a veterinarian, both of them clearly shocked by Luna's condition and the brand still visible beneath her fur.
I've seen this mark before, Marlene admitted, taking photographs from multiple angles, on dogs rescued from fighting rings, but never managed to trace it back to the source.
Victor Reeves, Ryan said, providing the name they now knew. He came here yesterday claiming Luna was his. Marlene's eyebrows shot up. Reeves? The businessman? That's significant. She exchanged glances with the veterinarian. We've suspected someone with resources was behind the fighting operations in the city, but couldn't prove it. He's coming back today, Lily explained. Said he'd bring paperwork proving ownership. Forged, most likely, Marlene replied, but convincing enough to muddy the waters. She finished her documentation and straightened up. I'm filing for emergency protective custody on your behalf. It won't stop him if he has law enforcement connections, but it creates a paper trail that can't be easily erased. The veterinarian, who had been examining Luna and her puppies, joined the conversation. These puppies are pure German Shepherd, but there's something unusual about them. The coloring, the bone structure. I'd bet they're from champion bloodlines, possibly imported. That would explain Reeves's interest. Dogs worth thousands each, Marlene added grimly. Tens of thousands if they've got the right paperwork, or can be given forged papers. Max, who had been listening silently while sitting beside Luna's bed, spoke up. They're not things, they're family. The veterinarian gave him a gentle smile. You're absolutely right, young man. And you've done an amazing job helping Luna bring them into the world. Will this be enough to keep them safe? Ryan asked, gesturing toward the documentation Marlene had been compiling. She hesitated. Officially, I have to say yes. Unofficially, men like Reeves don't always play by the rules. This confirmed what they already feared. Jake and Cooper, who had been standing quietly by, exchanged meaningful glances. We'll handle security, Jake assured his brother. You focus on those puppies and keeping Max's routine as normal as possible. Normal seemed like a distant memory. They had 5 newborn puppies in their living room, a traumatized mother dog who barely left Max's side, and a wealthy criminal who knew their address and wanted what they now protected. Nothing about their situation resembled normalcy. Still, they tried. After Marlene and the veterinarian left, promising to file the paperwork immediately, Lily made lunch while Ryan called the school to arrange for Max's assignments to be sent home. Cooper continued monitoring the security system while Jake took a nap, preparing for another night of vigilance. Max spent most of the day beside Luna's bed, talking softly to her and the puppies, occasionally reporting their thoughts to the adults with complete seriousness. Storm is the hungry one, he explained, pointing to the largest puppy. Shadow is the explorer. He's already trying to crawl away. Luna says he's going to be trouble. The casual way Max attributed these observations to Luna, rather than claiming them as his own, continued to fascinate and slightly unnerve the adults. There was no way he could know these personality traits in day-old puppies, and yet his assessments seemed uncannily accurate. As evening approached, tension grew. Reeves had promised to return within 24 hours. The day was waning, and still there had been no sign of him or his sleek black SUV. Maybe he changed his mind, Lily suggested hopefully as she prepared dinner. Decided it wasn't worth the trouble. Men like that don't back down, Cooper said. Not unkindly, but with the certainty of experience. He's planning something. The The question is what? They got their answer shortly after dinner. Max had just finished helping Lily clear the table when Luna suddenly raised her head from her nursing puppies, a low growl building in her throat. "Someone's coming," Max said, instantly alert. "Luna says it's bad people." Cooper was already at the security tablet scanning the camera feeds. Nothing on the front or back. Wait. He tapped one of the images, zooming in. Movement at the north corner of the property. Someone's coming through the neighbor's yard. Jake immediately moved to the window, staying to the side as he peered out. Can't see anyone yet, but Luna's right. They're not coming up the front walk this time. Multiple heat signatures, Cooper reported, switching to the thermal imaging mode on one of the cameras. At least 3, maybe 4, approaching from different directions. Ryan's heart began pounding in his chest. This wasn't a legal approach with paperwork. This was something else entirely. "Max," he said, keeping his voice steady despite his fear, "I need you to take Luna and the puppies to the upstairs bathroom, just like we practiced this morning." During their preparations for worst-case scenarios, they had identified the upstairs bathroom as the most secure room in the house. No windows, one solid door, access to water, and a ventilation shaft large enough for a child to escape through if absolutely necessary. Max nodded solemnly, already gathering the basket they had prepared for the puppies. Luna, despite her naturally protective instinct to confront threats, seemed to understand the plan. She gently nosed her puppies toward Max as he placed them one by one into the padded basket. "Lily, go with them," Ryan instructed. "Take the emergency phone." They had prepared a prepaid cell phone, programmed with emergency contacts and untraceable, just in case. "What about you?" Lily asked, fear clear in her eyes despite her attempt to remain calm for Max's sake. "Jake, Cooper and I will handle this," Ryan assured her, though he had no idea how they would actually do so. "Just keep Max and the puppies safe." As Lily and Max headed upstairs with Luna following closely behind the basket of her puppies, Jake handed Ryan a baseball bat. "Remember," Jake said quietly, "we're just homeowners protecting our property from intruders, nothing more." Ryan nodded, gripping the bat with sweaty palms. He had never been in a physical confrontation in his adult life. As a nurse, he healed injuries. He didn't cause them. "They're approaching the back door," Cooper reported, voice tight with tension. "One at the kitchen window, too. Coordinated entry points." "Reeves isn't with them," Jake noted, checking the camera feeds. "Sending his people to do the dirty work." "You think they're armed?" Ryan asked, the reality of their situation finally sinking in. Jake didn't sugarcoat it. "Have to assume they are, but they'll try to keep it quiet, breaking in, grabbing the dog and puppies, leaving. No witnesses, no commotion. So, what's our play?" "Make noise," Cooper replied simply. "Lots of it. The last thing they want is attention." Before Ryan could respond, there was a sudden crash from the kitchen, the sound of glass breaking as someone forced the window open. "Showtime," Jake muttered, moving silently toward the kitchen while signaling for Ryan to cover the back door. Upstairs, Lily helped Max settle Luna and the puppies in the bathroom, locking the door behind them. The puppies squirmed and whimpered in their basket, sensing their mother's tension. Luna stood rigid, her attention fixed on the bathroom door, ears pricked forward to catch every sound from downstairs. "Will Dad be okay?" Max whispered, huddling close to his mother on the cool tile floor. "Your dad is very brave," Lily replied, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "And Uncle Jake and Cooper know what they're doing." Max nodded, accepting this answer with the trust of a child who had never been lied to by his parents. He turned his attention to Luna, whispering reassurances that she seemed to understand, her rigid posture softening slightly, though her alertness never wavered. Downstairs, Ryan pressed himself against the wall, beside the back door, bat ready as he heard the lock being manipulated from outside. His heart hammered so loudly, he was certain the intruders must hear it. From the kitchen came a sudden commotion, Jake confronting whoever had entered through the window. There were grunts, the sound of something heavy hitting the counter, then a man's voice cursing. The back door flew open, the lock giving way under some kind of tool. Ryan swung the bat instinctively, connecting with something solid. A man dressed in dark clothing stumbled back, clearly surprised by the resistance. "Get out of my house," Ryan shouted, remembering Cooper's instruction to make noise. "Police! We've called the police!" The intruder hesitated, looking toward his companion who was wrestling with Jake in the kitchen. Neither had expected the homeowners to be prepared to fight back with such determination. Cooper appeared from the living room, wielding what looked like a police baton. "Security system triggered," he announced loudly, though Ryan knew they had deliberately kept the system silent. "Police response time 3 minutes." It was a bluff, but a good one. The intruder at the back door glanced at his companion, clearly reconsidering the operation. From upstairs came a new sound, Luna barking fiercely, the protective rage of a mother defending her young. It echoed through the house like thunder, primal and terrifying. "The dog," one of the men said urgently. "Upstairs, get the dog." The intruder from the back door shoved past Ryan, heading for the stairs. Ryan followed, swinging the bat again, but missing as the man ducked and kept moving. In the bathroom, Lily heard the commotion and held Max tighter, the prepaid phone clutched in her hand. She had already sent the emergency text to the number Marlene had provided, a direct line to a police detective she trusted. Luna's barking grew more frenzied as footsteps pounded up the stairs. She positioned herself between the door and the basket of puppies, hackles raised, teeth bared. "It's okay," Max whispered, though his voice shook. "Dad and Uncle Jake won't let them in." But the doorknob was already turning, rattling as someone tried to force it open. Luna launched herself at the door, barking and growling, the sounds so ferocious they barely seemed to come from the same gentle dog who had licked Max's fingers clean of peanut butter. On the other side of the door, the intruder hesitated. The dog sounded massive, enraged, nothing like the weakened animal they had expected. From below came more shouting, the sounds of struggle. "Police! This is the police! Everyone on the ground, now!" The new voices were authoritative, official, and entirely unexpected. Marlene's contact had responded to her emergency text with remarkable speed, sending officers who weren't on Reeves's payroll. The intruder outside the bathroom door froze, then turned and ran for the window at the end of the hall. But he was too late. Officers were already ascending the stairs, weapons drawn. "Down! Hands where I can see them!" In the bathroom, Luna's barking subsided to a low growl. Max looked at his mother with wide eyes. "Are those real police?" he whispered. Lily nodded, barely able to believe it herself. "I think so, but we stay here until someone we know tells us it's safe." Downstairs, Ryan watched in disbelief as officers handcuffed the intruders. Jake sported a cut above his eye, but was otherwise unharmed. Cooper was calmly explaining the situation to what appeared to be the commanding officer. "These men broke in," he stated, pointing to the damaged window and door. "We have it all on security footage. They were specifically targeting the dog and puppies upstairs." The officer, a stern-faced woman with lieutenant bars on her uniform, nodded. "Detective Santos briefed us on the situation. Where's the family?" "Upstairs bathroom," Ryan said, finally finding his voice. "My wife, son, and the dogs." "And the connection to Victor Reeves?" the lieutenant asked. Jake stepped forward. "We have documentation. He came here yesterday, claiming ownership of the dog. When we refused to hand her over, he threatened to return. These men work for him." He gestured to one of the intruders, who averted his gaze. "Check their phones. I guarantee you'll find communications with Reeves." The lieutenant nodded to one of her officers, who began examining the personal effects taken from the intruders. "Lieutenant," the officer called after a moment, "you're going to want to see this." He held up a phone displaying a text conversation. The last message, sent just 20 minutes earlier, was damning. "Get the dog and puppies. Clean entry and exit. No witnesses left behind." The implication was clear and chilling. This hadn't been a simple break-in to reclaim property. The no witnesses instruction indicated something far more sinister. "I need to check on my family," Ryan said, already moving toward the stairs. The lieutenant nodded. "Officer Chen, go with him." Upstairs, Ryan called through the bathroom door. "Lily, Max, it's me. It's safe now." There was a pause, then Max's voice. "Dad, is Luna's bad man gone?" "He wasn't here, buddy. Just some people who work for him. The police have them now." The lock clicked, and the door opened to reveal Max's pale face, Lily behind him looking equally shaken. Luna pushed past them both, inspecting Ryan thoroughly before relaxing, apparently satisfied he was unharmed. "The puppies?" Ryan asked, noticing the basket was still inside the bathroom. "They're okay," Max assured him. "Luna kept them safe." As they made their way downstairs, the full reality of their situation became clear. This wasn't going to end with one failed attempt. As long as Reeves remained free, and as long as they had what he considered his property, they would be targets. The lieutenant seemed to read Ryan's thoughts. We've got enough to bring Reeves in for questioning based on these text messages, but with his connections, he won't stay in custody long. So, what do we do? Lily asked, holding Max close to her side. Marlene, who had apparently arrived with or shortly after the police, stepped forward. I've been working with Detective Santos for years on these dogfighting cases. We've never had enough evidence to bring down the people at the top, until now. She looked at Luna, who had returned to her puppy's side. That brand, those text messages, and witness testimony could be enough, but you'd have to be willing to testify. Against a man who just sent people to our home with instructions to leave no witnesses? Ryan asked incredulously. Witness protection is an option, the lieutenant said carefully, but I won't lie to you. It would mean leaving your lives here behind. New identities, new location. Max, who had been listening silently, looked up at his parents with solemn eyes. We have to keep Luna and her babies safe, he said simply, even if it means moving away. The clarity of a child's perspective, cutting through adult complications to the heart of what mattered. Ryan and Lily exchanged glances, a lifetime of communication passing between them in seconds. Their home, their jobs, their community, all of it suddenly seemed less important than protecting the innocent lives that had come into their care. We'll do it, Ryan decided, whatever it takes to keep everyone safe. The next 48 hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. Detective Santos moved quickly, using the evidence from the break-in to secure a warrant for Reeves's arrest and the search of his properties. What they found was damning, a sophisticated dogfighting operation hidden behind the legitimate facade of his business, complete with training facilities, bedding records, and dozens of abused animals in conditions similar to how Luna had been found. But Reeves himself remained elusive. Tipped off about the raids, he had vanished, presumably using his considerable resources to flee the country. His financial accounts were frozen, his assets seized, but the man himself, and the danger he represented, was still out there somewhere. Which brought them to this moment, 3 days after the break-in, driving away from the only home Max had ever known, with nothing but a few essential belongings and 6 dogs. Luna and her 5 rapidly growing puppies. The puppies, now a week old, were already showing distinct personalities, just as Max had described. Storm, the largest, demanded constant attention. Shadow, the explorer, required extra vigilance to keep him from wandering. Hope, the smallest, had blossomed under their care, her initial fragility giving way to a determined spirit that belied her size. The witness protection program had moved with unprecedented speed, arranging new identities, a new home in a different state, and even consulting with veterinarians to ensure Luna and her puppies could travel safely. Jake and Cooper had stayed through it all, providing security until the very last moment. Remember the rules, the U.S. Marshal assigned to their case reminded them as they prepared to depart separately. No contact with anyone from your past lives. No social media, no patterns that could be traced. Max, strapped into the back seat with the carrier of puppies beside him, and Luna at his feet, nodded solemnly. At just 5 years old, he understood the gravity of their situation with a clarity that both impressed and saddened the adults. We're like superheroes with secret identities, he told Luna, who watched him with those intelligent amber eyes. No one will find us, and you'll all be safe forever. And we're all together, Lily added from the passenger seat, reaching back to squeeze Max's knee. That's what matters. As they drove away from the city, following the unmarked car that would lead them to their new life, Ryan couldn't help but glance in the mirror one last time. Not at Max this time, but at the road behind them, watching for any sign of pursuit. There was nothing, just an empty highway stretching back toward the life they were leaving behind. For now, at least, they had escaped. Beside him, Lily placed her hand over his on the steering wheel. "We're going to be okay," she said softly. "All of us." In the back seat, Max had fallen asleep, his hand resting protectively on the puppy carrier. Luna remained awake, her gaze alternating between the sleeping child and the road ahead, ever vigilant. They drove through the day and into the evening, stopping only when necessary for Luna and the puppies. As night fell, they checked into a pre-arranged motel under their new names, the first test of their new identities. "Where to next?" Max asked as they settled into the anonymous room, Luna and the puppies occupying most of the floor space. "We'll know in the morning," Ryan replied, repeating what their marshal contact had told them. "One day at a time, one road at a time." Max seemed satisfied with this answer, turning his attention to helping Luna care for her puppies. The tiny family of dogs had already grown so much in just a week. Eyes opening, attempts at wobbly walking, tiny yips replacing newborn whimpers. Later, with Max finally asleep and the puppies nursing contentedly, Ryan and Lily stood by the motel window, looking out at the unfamiliar landscape. "Do you think he'll find us?" Lily whispered, voicing the fear that had been with them since leaving. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders. "The marshals are good at what they do, and we'll be careful. Max is so resilient. I keep waiting for him to fall apart, but he just adapts." "He has Luna," Ryan said simply. Somehow, that seems to be enough. And it was true. Whatever mysterious bond had formed between their son and the abused German Shepherd had only strengthened through these trials. Max spoke to Luna as if they shared a private language, and Luna responded with an understanding that transcended normal animal behavior. "We did the right thing," Lily said after a long silence. "Not just leaving, but taking her in that first night. No matter what happens next, that was the right choice." Ryan nodded, remembering the frightened, abused dog they had found in the rain. Now, Luna lay curled protectively around her puppies, a mother who would fight to her last breath to protect them, just as Ryan and Lily would do for Max. In that moment, despite the uncertainty of their future, a sense of peace settled over Ryan. They had lost their home, their careers, their community, but they had saved Luna and her puppies. They had stood against cruelty and refused to look away. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As the first light of dawn crept through the motel curtains, they prepared to continue their journey. New names, new destination, new lives waiting to be built. The road ahead was long and unknown, but they weren't traveling it alone. Luna herded her puppies back into the carrier for the day's journey, her eyes meeting Max's with that same uncanny understanding. Whatever silent communication passed between them made Max smile. "Luna says we're going to find a house with a big yard," he announced, "and no bad men will ever find us there." Ryan and Lily exchanged glances, neither questioning their son's certainty. After everything they had witnessed, a dog whispering secrets about the future seemed entirely possible. They loaded the car under the watchful eye of their marshal escort, ready to continue toward their new home. As they pulled onto the highway, following the car ahead of them, Max gazed out the window at the unfamiliar landscape passing by. "Look," he said suddenly, pointing at something in the distance, a rainbow. And there it was, a perfect arc of color stretching across the morning sky, a bridge between the storm they had weathered and whatever lay ahead. "That's a good sign," Lily said, reaching back to squeeze Max's hand. Luna, sitting at attention in the back seat, looked from the rainbow to the family who had saved her, her amber eyes reflecting a wisdom and gratitude that needed no words. But as the sunrise painted the sky in shades of hope and promise, none of them noticed the dark sedan parked on a distant overlook, binoculars trained on their vehicle. Inside, a man spoke quietly into a phone. "They're heading west on Highway 16, two-car convoy." The voice that answered was cultured, controlled, unmistakable. "Follow them. Keep your distance. I want to know their final destination." And then Victor Reeves replied, "We wait. Time is on our side."
The hunt had just begun.
If you enjoyed this heart-pounding story about courage, connection, and the unbreakable bond between a boy and his dog, please like, share, and subscribe. And let us know in the comments where you're listening from.